Fighting continued for Akhnoor for another day, and by September 4th, it looked again that Pakistan forces would overrun Indian positions by September 6th. The Indian side had to find another way to ease the pressure on Akhnoor. This is where the Indian side launched their plan of last resort, crossing the international border and threatening Pakistan's most important city, Lahore. This was codenamed Operation Riddle. The Indian planners had war-gamed this very scenario, a situation where Pakistan forces overwhelm Indian positions in Kashmir. India could launch an offensive towards Lahore. This would make the Pakistan planners redirect a portion of their force from their offensive towards the defense of Lahore, easing the pressure in Kashmir. The biggest obstacle for the Indian offensive towards Lahore was the Ichigil Canal, developed as a defense to the city. For the Indian forces to threaten Lahore, they had to neutralize the defense forces from the border till the east of Ichigil Canal, create a bridgehead across the canal, and accumulate enough forces on its west side to have a realistic chance of threatening Lahore. The objective was not to capture Lahore, but just to threaten it. It was, however, extremely crucial that the enemy believed that Lahore was under real threat of attack. Only then it will move their forces away from a successful ongoing offensive towards the defense of Lahore. With the Indian forces under immense pressure at Akhnoor, India's 11 Corps initiated the offense towards Lahore at 4 p.m. on September 6. 3 Jat of the Indian forces vigorously attacked the enemy defenses along the Amritsar-Lahore axis and overwhelmed them by 6:30 a.m. Their objective now was to capture a town in the outskirts of Lahore on the east of Ichigil Canal, the town of Dograi. As they approached Dograi, their positions were attacked by the F-86 Sabres of the Pakistan Air Force. 3 Jat took some major losses, but the commanding officer, Colonel Desmond Haid, did not let the morale of the unit drop. They continued their advance and attacked the enemy forces stationed on the east side of the canal. The enemy put up a fierce resistance, but withdrew across to the west side. By 11:30 a.m., owing to the brave, fierce attacks by the Jats, Dograi was in Indian control. 3 Jat then moved across the Ichigil Canal and captured the town of Patapur. Within 8 hours of the launch of the offensive, the Indian troops were across the most formidable Pakistani obstacle and were within striking distance of Lahore. Hearing the news of the Indian troops crossing the Ichigil Canal, Pakistan GHQ panicked and eased their offensive on Akhnoor to divert forces towards Lahore. Operation Riddle had worked. Unfortunately, the rapid progress of 3 Jat could not be pressed further. The other units on the offensive had suffered some major setbacks and could not provide reinforcements to 3 Jat to strengthen their force across the bridgehead. Pakistan forces launched multiple counterattacks at 3 Jat positions, but all were repelled. Eventually, the Pakistan side initiated a major attack with armor support. 3 Jat, with no reinforcements in sight, had to move back to the eastern bank of Ichigil Canal. Meanwhile, the Indian offense had suffered major losses due to consistent attacks from the Pakistan Air Force. Many Indian units suffered major setbacks during the offensive. GOC 15 Div, Major General Niranjan Prasad, provided the report of operations to General Harbaksh Singh. He received orders from General Harbaksh Singh to push forward and secure a bridge over Ichigil Canal by first light of September 7th. More attempts were made to secure Ichigil Canal till September 8th, but due to a resolute defense and aggressive counter-attacks by the Pakistan forces, this objective could not be achieved. Major General Prasad was then removed from the command of 15 Div and was replaced by Major General Mohinder Singh the same night. From September 8th to September 10th, the Indian offensive had some major setbacks, with their lines breaking through the enemy counterattacks. The vital city of Amritsar was now exposed to an enemy attack on it. More Indian forces were moved forward to protect Amritsar. Meanwhile, on the night of September 7th, India's 1 Corps initiated an armor offensive towards the strategically important town of Sialkot. Sialkot served as a supply point for the Cham sector, and the railway line from Sialkot to Pasrur was crucial for Pakistan's defense. This was codenamed Operation Nepal. On the same morning, September 8th, Pakistan surprised the Indian side with an armor offensive from Kasur towards Khem, with the objective of outflanking the Indian forces targeting Lahore and threatening Amritsar. This was Pakistan's pride, their first armored division with the M47 and M48 Patton tanks, the most modern and the most capable tanks of the time. Facing them were the much older World War II vintage Indian Sherman and Centurion tanks. As the offensive pushed forward, the Indian forces in Khem formed a defensive posture and quickly flooded the fields to impose movement restrictions on the incoming force. 4 grenadiers dug in to stall the enemy's advance until Indian armor elements could reinforce them. They started hunting the Pakistan tanks using RCL guns and forced the enemy to retreat multiple times. The brave and courageous efforts of 4 grenadiers stalled the enemy offensive for 2 days. This gave 2 Indian armor brigades enough time to organize themselves and meet the enemy at Bhikiwind. Pakistan's 1st Armored Division outflanked the Indian defenses and moved forward towards its objective. India's 3 cavalry and 9 Deccan horse with the Centurion tanks was waiting for it right there. They destroyed many enemy tanks during the battle and thwarted every enemy attempt to get past them. The Pakistan 1st Armored Division suffered extremely heavy losses in their attempt to push past the Indian defense lines. By the evening of September 10th, as a result of strong counterattacks by the Indian armor groups, Pakistan had suffered very heavy losses. The offensive had lost steam, so they dropped the offensive and retreated to Kasur. During the battle, Pakistan lost 97 tanks, out of which 72 were captured by the Indian forces. India lost 5. India gave a decisive blow to the ambitious armored offensive of Pakistan. This battle was acknowledged as the biggest tank battle after the Second World War. In the Sialkot sector, early morning of September 8th, India's 1st Armored Division crossed into Pakistan territory towards Phillora with the objective of capturing Javinda. Realizing the severe threat posed to Sialkot, the Pakistan side rushed 2 regiments of armor from Cham. With this, all the hopes of Pakistan offensive capturing Akhnoor were gone. Fierce tank battles ensued between the Indian and Pakistan armored groups in Phillora, leading to what was termed as another large tank battle after World War II. After multiple daring attempts, the Indian armor group was able to break through the Pakistan defenses at Phillora on September 11, 1965. The next target was Javinda. The Indian forces continued towards Javinda and mounted multiple attacks on enemy positions. The Indian offensive, however, was bogged down due to a much stronger resistance put up by the enemy in Javinda. By now, both sides had inducted most of their elements into the war, and this had become a war of attrition with no major changes expected. The war continued with minor gains and losses in territory for the next 9 days. The war was getting to a stalemate-like situation with no side making any major gains. On September 20, 1965, the United Nations Security Council unanimously passed a resolution demanding an unconditional ceasefire from both the nations within 48 hours. Both sides accepted the resolution. Indian Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri and Pakistan President Ayub Khan signed the Tashkent Agreement on January 10, 1966, agreeing to withdraw their forces to pre-August 1965 lines.